Hey there and welcome back to the podcast. This is episode number 52 and today we're going to be talking about habits, because the thing is, when it comes to your health, happiness and success, whatever those things mean to you, the amount that you get of those things in your life will be largely dependent on the day-to-day habits that you form, the behaviours, actions and systems that you put in place. And so many people leave this down to chance. They go through life just hoping that they form the kinds of habits that support them. And they might get lucky, but a lot of the time they don't. They end up forming habits that don't serve them and just sometimes get in the way. So in this episode, I want to share with you 4 tactics that can help you be more intentional with the habits that you build, and to also help you build them more quickly so that you can chip away at those that don't serve you and build positive ones that actually support your health, happiness and success. So grab a cuppa or whatever you do when you're listening to your podcasts and let's get started. Hey there and welcome to the Stress Less Living podcast. My name is Stephen Burns and I've been a practicing coach, trainer and hypnotherapist for 25 years. Each week I'll share easily digestible bite-sized ideas that you can immediately put into practice so that you can live a more harmonious and balanced life. Because life is challenging, but whatever we encounter, we always have a choice. We can take the easy routes or the hard routes, the low stress way or the high stress way. Well, the Stress Less Living podcast is about always looking for the easy routes in life, the low stress ways to accomplish your goals, get more of what you want, and ultimately live a happy and more effortless life. So if you're looking for the perfect antidote for the chaos of modern life, my friend, you are absolutely in the right place. So let's get started. First of all, what actually is a habit and why do we need them in the first place? Well, a habit is a ritualistic way of doing something. It's where we engage in an action, skill or behaviour without thinking, so we do it automatically. And as human beings, we of course need to be able to form habits so that we can function and be efficient. I mean, if you think about it, if you had to figure out how to walk every time you stood up, then you would never leave the house. That would be totally impractical. But at one stage, you didn't know how to walk, you had to learn it, and then once you had, that behaviour disappeared into your subconscious and became habitual. So we need to be able to do things on autopilot like this to free up our attention so that we can focus on other things. So doing things habitually is good, but we can end up forming bad habits, things that hinder us, damage us, or prevent us from moving forward in life. So we have to have a way to break these old habits and build positive ones instead. And that's what we're going to be looking at in this episode. We're going to be taking a look at 4 tactics that you can use to chip away at those old habits and form new positive ones that take your life in the right direction. And if you listen to the end, I've got a couple of bonus tips that I've thrown in just for good measure that can take this to the next level. So, tactic number 1, start off small and then build from there. So what a lot of people do when they're looking to change a habit is they get way too ambitious in the beginning. So they try to change far too much in one foul swoop. And this then creates an all or nothing mentality. So they start off great, they go at it like the clappers for the first couple of weeks, but then when they fall off the wagon just a little bit, the whole game is up and they end up back at square one. It's a wee bit like playing a game of Jenga. You pull one brick out and the whole structure comes tumbling down. It's very much boom or bust. So one of my friends has a tendency to do this every single year. So when we hit January, he decides that he's going to lose weight and he's going to get fit. He's going to completely revolutionise his life. So he stops smoking, quits drinking, stops eating junk food, gets rid of sugar from his diet, eats mostly salads, joins a gym and decides to work out every single day. And it all starts off brilliantly. For the first week, he is absolutely on fire. It's amazing to watch. But then as soon as he misses a single gym session or he orders one takeaway or he goes for a few beers, the whole thing collapses and he ends up in this super frustrating boom and bust cycle. And it's all because he's been too ambitious in the beginning. So it's much better if you start off small, initially anyway, get some quick wins and then you can build from there. When you start off small like this and just take little actions initially, each action gives you a jolt of encouragement, and these jolts provide you with the motivation, the fuel to keep going. Also, ultimately, you can only ever build a habit by showing up, and showing up regularly. Consistency is a thing that patterns habits in, and it's much easier to do that if you set yourself small actions. So when you think about the habit that you'd like to form, if you've got something in mind just now, what would be some small things that you can do to get the ball rolling? And then once you've done that for a bit, you can build from there. So that's number one. Tactic number two, change your environment. Now, I'm a big advocate for making change from the inside out. It's important to address the psychological issues that prevent people from making change. But you can also make changes from the outside in. And one great way to do that is by making strategic changes to your environment. So this is based on the idea that as human beings, we have a natural tendency to change our behaviour in response to the environments that we find ourselves in. To give you an example, when I was younger in my teenage years and probably throughout most of my 20s as well, if I'm being completely honest, I used to drink too much alcohol. So there's a thing that gets encouraged in Scotland. As a young guy, in order to get any kind of street cred, you're required to go out at the weekend and get absolutely plastered, blind drunk. And if you don't, then there's something wrong with you. In fact, there's a well-known phrase in Scotland, and that is, dinna trust a man that doesn't drink, which basically means if someone doesn't drink alcohol, then they're not to be trusted. Clearly they're up to something. So this is not a good belief system, is it? It's an example where my environment was creating and reinforcing bad behaviour. And I'm not blaming the environment completely. Obviously, I still had choice, but it was heavily influencing the way that I was behaving. But then for me, the turning point happened when I started to dance salsa. So about 13 years ago, I got involved in the Latin dance scene. And I found that the norms of that peer group was very different. It was actually frowned upon if you drank too much, because if you dance with someone when you're totally plastered, then you think you're doing well, but you're actually throwing the follower around like a rag doll. And also, if the follower is drunk and you're sober as the leader, then it can feel like you're wrestling a tiger, which is not good. So the unspoken rule is that you can have one or two just to get the old legs and hips relaxed, but you don't want to get drunk. That's definitely frowned upon. And what I found was that over time, my attitude and relationship to alcohol changed dramatically. No longer do I feel like I need to drink when I go out. And more often than not, at the weekends when I go out dancing, I'll just take the car and it feels totally natural. And this change was created because the environment changed and I naturally adapted my behaviour in response to it. So a key question to ask, if we turn the lens back on you for a moment, is what kind of environment would naturally encourage the kinds of habits that you want to create? And this might involve spending less time with friends who encourage the kind of habits you no longer want to have. And hey, I know that sounds harsh, and I'm not suggesting that you have to cut them out of your life completely, but at the end of the day, it is your life, and your environment will have an impact on you. It will influence you. So that's tactic number two. Tactic number three, do something called habit meshing. So I've also heard this being called habit stacking, and it's where you look to combine a new habit that you want to form with something that's already habitual and something that you already enjoy. So to give you an example, one of the things I really hate with a passion is cleaning. Housekeeping. I just can't stand it. But the thing is, you need to clean unless you want to live in an absolute squalor. So I decided I wanted to change my relationship to cleaning by engaging in some habit meshing or habit stacking. So one of the things I love to do is to listen to podcasts, especially ones that have a storytelling element to them. So whenever I was cleaning, I would listen to my favourite podcasts at the same time. And guess what happened? Well, pretty quickly, I started to enjoy cleaning. Heaven forbid, what the heck is going on there? And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I even sometimes look forward to an hour cleaning session because I get to lose myself in a podcast at the same time. So having done this now for a while, my relationship with doing housework has changed dramatically. I'm not saying it's something that I absolutely love doing, but I quite enjoy it, and I do it a lot more habitually. So have a think, how can you combine the new habit that you'd like to form with something that you already do and something that you already enjoy? And by doing that, you'll mesh the existing habit with the new one. So another way to use habit meshing or habit stacking is to link an existing habit with a new one sequentially. So that was some fancy language there, so let me explain. So the idea is that you're looking to use an existing habit, so something that you already do without thinking, as a trigger or an anchor for the new habit. So it's like you're piggybacking on something that you already do regularly and automatically, and this then increases the likelihood of that new habit sticking. So, some examples. You could say to yourself, after I brush my teeth in the morning, I will go out for a walk. So the existing habit is brushing your teeth, and the new habit is going for a walk. You're linking the two together. Example 2. After I brew my morning coffee, I will write down 3 things I'm grateful for. The existing habit is brewing your morning coffee. The new habit is writing down 3 things you're grateful for. You're linking them together in a chain. You're doing it sequentially. And finally, example number 3. While I'm cooking the dinner, I will do some quick cleaning. Hopefully you're starting to see what's going on here. So what you're doing is you're linking the new habit to something that's already ingrained in your routine, and it then becomes easier to remember and also to execute. So that's number 3. And tactic number 4, use the identity drill. So I love this one. This is one of my favourites. So the general idea is that whenever you're looking to make any kind of change in your life, the point where the change becomes automatic, where it becomes habitual, is when you start to see it as something that is linked to your identity, who you believe you are as a person. So identity is really powerful. If you want to understand the theory behind it, there's a book called The Outsiders by Howard Becker. He's a famous sociologist from the 60s. So the book talks about the power of labels, especially identity labels. And in particular, it examined deviant behaviour in teenagers. So at the time, bear in mind this was written in the 60s, smoking hash was considered deviant behaviour. Oh, how times have changed. And what the book found was that when a teenager starts to smoke hash, it doesn't become a habit straight away. In fact, it sometimes doesn't become a long-term habit at all. It's just a passing phase. But as soon as the teenager is labelled as a deviant, so by parents, friends, media, and society in general, that's the point where it becomes an issue. They start to self-identify with that label, and this then causes them to be pushed further away from normal society, and here's the key point, it actually ends up reinforcing the behaviour and in many cases making it worse. Are you someone who struggles with work-life balance? You find it difficult to maintain harmony between career ambitions and your personal well-being. You're doing your best to balance demands and deadlines with the other important aspects of your life, but things like burnout, stress, and a nagging sense of guilt seem to forever lurk in the background. Well, one of the best first steps that you can do to create more balance is to do a full life audit. This is a powerful process that helps you highlight areas of your life that are a little bit out of sync that potentially need addressing so that you can be more in harmony. So if you want to do a life audit, then I have a free PDF that will take you through the entire thing. To get access to that, please check the show notes. You'll see a link and all the information you need. And what he said in the book was that when you stick a label on someone, especially if it's an identity one, it almost always reinforces the behaviour within the label and potentially makes it worse. So we're seeing this quite a lot at the moment with the culture wars that is basically driving people insane. So both sides are constantly throwing identity labels at each other, and it's just making things worse because it's reinforcing the behaviour that they don't want to see, and it's pushing people further and further apart. It's just adding to the division. So I think we want to be very careful about what labels we attach to people, especially identity ones. But anyway, I digress. So the identity drill is where you use this idea, but you use it in a positive way, a way that empowers you. It's where you start to identify with the habit rather than just seeing it as a behaviour that you do. So to give you an example, around about 7 or 8 years ago, I started to run. So at first, I absolutely hated it. Every run felt like a marathon, even though it was only like 5k. It was a mammoth struggle. But then over time, something shifted inside for me. I started to notice that I was describing myself to people as a runner. So no longer was I just someone who went out for a few runs every now and again. I was a runner. I'd started to link the behaviour to my identity. And from that point onwards, I noticed a real shift in how I viewed going out for a run. I no longer struggled to get motivated. In fact, the opposite happened. I started to look forward to each run, and if I didn't manage to fit in at least 3 runs a week, it felt like something fundamental was missing. It felt unnatural. And the key difference was because I'd started to self-identify. This is the power of identity labels, especially when it comes to our habits. Within every identity label is a package of mindsets, emotions, attitudes, and behaviours, and when we subscribe to that label, all those mindsets, emotions, attitudes, and behaviours are taken for granted. They become part of the bricks and mortar of our psychology. So be very careful what identity labels you subscribe to personally. And also, I'd recommend you be careful about which identity labels you attach to other people as well. They are very powerful when it comes to shaping how we think and behave. But also, you can use them in a very positive way to build habits more quickly. So how do you do that? How do you use the identity drill? Well, it's really simple. What you want to do is, first of all, have a think about what you want to change. So what habit is it that you want to form? What new set of behaviours that you want to add to your life? And then you want to follow up with this question here, and this is the key part of the technique. You want to ask yourself, who do I need to become in order for that change to be natural? And the key word is become. You're linking it to your identity. So a quick example, say your goal was to get slim and healthy. Rather than trying to change your behaviours directly to force yourself to eat salads and work out every day, you can start linking it to your identity by asking these questions. How would a slim and healthy person act? If I was a slim and healthy person, what kind of foods would I select at the supermarket? How would I think and feel about food? What would be my relationship to it? And as a slim and healthy person, what would be my relationship to exercise? Those are the kind of questions you want to ask yourself, and you can loop these questions inside your mind, keep asking them, and let them guide your behaviour. And what this does is you're starting to pattern in this identity label, the idea that you are a slim and healthy person, and your behaviours, your habits will naturally form as a result. This massively speeds up the process of habit formation. So I've been asking this question within myself a lot recently as a business owner, so I want to take my business to another level, but I feel like there's been a bit of resistance lately, and I'm not really quite sure what that is. So rather than asking myself, what do I need to do to take it to the next level, I've been asking myself, who do I need to become in order to take that next step? What kind of person do I need to develop into for that next step to become part of the natural progression? And that's really helping me get a different perspective to it. It's helping me kind of bypass those limitations that I seem to be placing on myself. And it's because I'm using the identity drill. So that's 4 tactics for building positive habits quickly. Now I did promise you a couple of bonus tactics, so here are 2 honourable mentions. So the first of these is explore your why. Why do you want to build this habit in the first place? How is it going to positively impact your life? Asking why uncovers your motivation, your desire, and this gives you fuel to get started and to keep going. So you want to ask why. So you can take that even further, you can make it even more powerful by asking why several times. So for example, say you wanted to exercise, that's the habit you wanted to form. So you could ask, why do I want to exercise? And maybe the answer that comes back is to get fit and healthy. So you can then hook on to that answer and ask why again. So why do you want to get fit and healthy? What will that do for you? What will that give you? Well, it would make me feel confident and comfortable in my own skin. Amazing. This is just a little bit more powerful. So you can again ask why to that. You can hook on to it and take it further. So why do you want to feel confident and comfortable in your own skin? What will that give you? Well, it'll make me feel strong. It'll make me feel powerful. It'll make me feel whole as a person. So when you ask why several times like this, you uncover deeper benefits that creates more powerful forms of motivation. So that's the first bonus tactic. And the second one is to make a commitment pact. So this is where you make a strong decision that you're going to do something and you commit to it. So in general, the bigger the declaration of commitment you make to something, the greater the amount of desire that you'll have to show up consistently and to make it happen. So there's different types of commitment that you can make. So first of all, you have a verbal commitment. So this is where you announce that you're going to do something to your friends and family. And this then creates a pressure, it creates commitment that encourages you to show up and take action consistently. Or you can make a behavioural one. So an example of that could be signing up to run a 10k for charity. The fact that you've collected money for a good cause is a really big commitment that will increase the likelihood that you'll show up and actually put the work in. Another example of a behavioural commitment is you can enlist the help of a habit buddy, so someone who wants to build that habit too, and you can make that commitment together. A word of warning on this one though, make sure that the buddy you choose is actually committed. If they're not, then it can work in reverse and you can end up just enabling each other and doing nothing. And a final example of a commitment pact is spending money on something. I know some people don't want to spend money, I get it, but investing financially in something is a huge commitment, and this often pushes us to take action and to show up consistently. So there we have it. That's 4 tactics for building positive habits quickly and a couple of bonus ones thrown in at the end there. So let's do a quick review. Tactic number 1, start off small. You get motivation from the doing, so you want to lower your expectations in the beginning, get some quick wins. That will give you jolts of motivation that acts as fuel to help you keep going. Tactic number 2, make changes to your environment. I am a strong believer that change does happen from the inside out, but we don't want to neglect the environment because it does have an impact. As human beings, we have a natural tendency to shape and mould our behaviour in response to the different environments that we find ourselves in. So if the environment is clearly not working for you, then you want to make some strategic changes. It might mean not hanging about with the same types of people. You don't have to cut them out of your life, but you might have to limit the amount of time that you spend with them. Or it might mean changing your work or changing the environment that you live in, maybe moving house. I don't know. Your own situation will be unique, but sometimes we have to make changes in our environment, and this will stimulate changes in our behaviour. Tactic number 3, use habit meshing or habit stacking. So this is where you mix the new habit with something that you're already doing and something that you're already enjoying. It makes it much easier to commit to, and you also change your relationship to the habit too. What you can also do is you can link habits together sequentially, so you can take something that you already do that's part of your routine and then make that a trigger for a new habit that you'd like to form. And tactic number 4, use the identity drill. Identity labels are powerful. Within them are contained mindsets, behaviours, beliefs, all kinds of ways of thinking. So you want to be very careful about what you identify with, but you can also use this in a positive way to make habits stick a lot quicker. And the key question you want to ask yourself is, who do I need to become in order for this change to be natural? And then we covered a couple of bonus tips. The first one is explore your why. When you do that, you start to uncover and connect with the motivations behind your actions, and that gives you fuel to show up and keep going. And you can ask why a lot of times to explore some of those deeper and more powerful forms of motivation. And finally, make a commitment pact. The bigger the commitment you make, the bigger the declaration, then usually the more motivation we have to show up and to make it happen. This creates a pressure that pushes us in the direction of doing those behaviours to form that habit. So whatever you do, you might want to tell your friends, family, maybe you write yourself out a contract if you like. I find that a wee bit weird, but it tends to work for some people. Maybe you do something for charity, or maybe you find a habit buddy, something like that. But if you make a commitment to something, then it just raises the stakes and it makes it much more likely that you're going to show up and actually put the work in. So hope you enjoyed this episode on how to build habits more quickly. If you did enjoy it, if you could follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, and if you're feeling especially generous, I'd like you to get into the habit of leaving me a review. It really does help get the word out. So thank you once again for listening, and I'll speak to you next week.